Perfect. Oh. Oh,
Sorry, I know it pops up a
I'm
thing.
never ready for it either. Like it's my first day. Okay, hi everybody. We will call the meeting to order at 6:33. Let's start out with any public comments. Tommy.
All right, Eric, is just procedural question. I just have a couple communications from my organization. Is that appropriate for public comments?
Depending on the length. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so fairly quickly, I guess just summer updates that we're looking for, just pretty quickly, just 4 quick things. The slow signs on Rice Hill Road, just looking for an update on that, if you just want to make a note.
Yep, actually I can answer that one for you right now. So I've been in contact with Travis about that. The guy who comes by with signs to the town shed didn't have his van this past month with like the catalogs and whatnot in them. Typically he even has signs with him, but he didn't have that van this past month. So I reminded Travis that when he does come back this month, that we get that taken care of.
Excellent, thank you very much, Eric.
Yep.
Question on Horus Hill parking lot. I think we thought there was an agreement that people could use that parking lot. It is the Kaplan's property. So if the town plowed it, the Kaplans are okay with it being public use parking lot for the trails on Horus Hill. And it has not been plowed this winter.
Right, we're working on that now. So he actually put, I think it was W&B in under contract to plow that.
Okay.
Instead of the town. So I'm working with him to get that figured out because it was pointed out to me that lot is not plowed. So that will be happening sooner, much sooner rather than later.
Okay. And then real quickly to finish up here, I think we've had a conversation last year back in June, just with some clarity. The Innet Sawmill has like some connections and to the Horus Hill area. And now there's actually, we took some pictures, we were back there, there's a sign directing as well as a makeshift bridge. So our concern is just from an insurance perspective, if that violates our covenant with the wetland being there, and maybe if just the town could look into that a little bit further. It's just, so we're not, there's no liability extension for us or for yourself.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I was not aware that had been expanded on or used in that manner. So.
Gotcha. And I can get you the pictures for that. And then coupled with that, just to check in, there's also a lot of earth being dumped that looks like it's kind of right on, let me see here. Right on the property on the north side of the Crosstown Road, kind of expanding the parking lot there. And is that okay? Because it looks like it's right on the border of the Vermont significant wetland.
Okay.
And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I will look into both of those things, Tommy. If you don't mind sending me those pictures, that'll help me tremendously.
You got it. I will do it right after the meeting.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Any other public comments? No. Okay. Additions or changes to the agenda. Right after we approve the minutes, I'm adding an item to introduce the new representative of the Deerfield Valley Stump Jumpers. So that will come right after we approve the minutes. Anybody else have additions or changes? Perfect. Item 3, approved minutes from the January 11th meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes, please? Anyone? Patricia motions. Can I have a second? Sarah seconds. We're good. All in favor? Tommy, there you go. Aye, perfect. All right, all set there. So, new agenda item. I would like to introduce the new representative from the Deerfield Valley Stump Jumpers, Matt Nicholas. Matt, you want to say hi at all?
Hi, Matt. I've been with the board of the Stump Jumpers for a few years now, and looking forward to joining this committee. Snowmobile, ski, hike, enjoy all the trails in Dover.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Feel free to reach out to me if you ever want to have a catch-up session or anything like that. Get you up to speed, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, perfect. Item 4, Ursa grant update. There's not much of an update other than that they have still not given us a response on the grant application. They were supposed to have responses to us initially in November. It was the end of November, and then it was the middle of December. And then I received an email just about 3 weeks ago at this point saying that they were still reading through all of the applications. So no updates there, but as soon as I get one, you will all hear about it. Okay, any questions on that? Perfect. Act 250 updates. So when we submitted, Southern Vermont Trails and the town submitted letters of interest for the grants, the Ursa grant and the VIII grant, Steve and his team were gracious enough to put together some project review sheets for us to send off to the state. Seemed to be like, for some reason there was I don't know if they were just, I think they were missed at the state level when they were submitted, but we got those back in and said, hey, what's going on with these? And so now we currently have a green light that no permit is needed for any parking on, or the parking lot on Handle Road. We have a green light that for the project at the town forest to expand the parking lot. And we also have a green light on the project review sheet for Horus Hill. The only one there that may require some additional permitting would be our approval on Horus Hill, just because there is, well, I was talking to Andy, I believe there are wetlands in the lower portion of that property that we would need to permit for if there was going to be, you know, extensive work done in there as part of our project. But that's a bridge we will cross as we go through the engineering phases, you know, just to make sure that we're doing everything properly there. But as far as the project review sheet, no Act 250 permit is required for the proposed project on Horus Hill. So we are all set there. Any questions? Mike Purcell.
Yeah, I'm still curious as to whether or not any of that Horus Hill project involves creating that loop that gets back over to Crosstown Road to make a circle out of the Valley Trail and Horus Hill.
I believe, not in the first map. Okay, but that's not to say that that can't be done, you know, as well. It's just the project review sheet that we received back was literally for what we had applied or sent the letter of interest to the state for the VIII grant, which did not include that original loop or that loop that you're talking about. That being said, you know, we can absolutely look into making sure that that works in there as well.
Because just a circle is infinitely more popular and we'll see even more use than back and forth. And
No, I agree.
Yep. And I mean, that'll just make just such a great park that mortals can use, not just, you know, deep woods enthusiasts.
Appreciate the comment, and I will definitely take note of it. Thank you, Mike. Any other questions on the project review sheets we got back? Perfect. All right, item 6, in-person meeting discussion. So our illustrious governor, Phil Scott, has decided that we don't necessarily, in order to meet public meeting law right now because of the Omicron outbreak and whatnot, we do not need an in-person component at our meetings for the time being. So I would like to have a discussion about how you guys feel about keeping this remote, at least until those public meeting laws change, or we're all feeling a little more comfortable with COVID. To be completely honest with you, I would say for at least the last, 4 4 meetings, potentially 5, it's been me and one other person here at the Dover Town Office. And the person who is typically here with me won't be joining us anymore. So I'm feeling like if Paul hadn't joined me here tonight, I would be here alone. So if it's okay with you guys, for the time being, I'd like to shift this meeting to a Zoom only format, and we can readdress, you know, as the governor again shifts those changes, or we feel comfortable with getting back together in person. Does anybody have any comments on that? Tommy?
I would just say, personally, I think this is just a matter of convenience. So absolutely, go ahead. I'd be extremely comfortable sitting there with you right now with the numbers plummeting. So just as a matter of convenience, though, this certainly is convenient for us. But I just want to specify that I don't look at it as a matter of safety at the moment.
I do and I don't, right? Because yes, the numbers are lower, but it also has a lot to do with the fact that everybody's taking home tests and not necessarily calling up Dr. Levine and reporting the results. So you know, the numbers are lower, but I think there's multiple reasons for that. So I understand your point there. But you know, the part of it is the convenience for me as well. You know, like just because I am driving from Newfane, Dover Hill was a little spicy for me tonight coming over with the snow drifts and whatnot. So if I can be at my house and you guys can be at your houses, I'm very happy with that. So any other comments, questions, suggestions? All right, can I have a motion that we transfer to virtual meetings until further notice?
I make a motion that we hold Trails and Rec meetings as remote meetings until further notice.
Can I have a second? Mike seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Perfect. Thank you, guys. Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Okay. Moving right along here. Got a quote. We had a brief discussion last meeting, okay, about installing trail counters at various locations about town. So I went ahead and reached out to the company that Wyndham Regional Commission sources their counters from. They're reliable, they're supported, and the data management would match what they're doing as well. So it's a company called Trafix, TRAFX. They provided us with a quote for, I sent it out to you guys. It was 3 of the infrared trail counter, or 4 of the infrared trail counters, the dock, the data net plan, the cables, and the user manuals. And then you'll see in that packet that I provided as well, it was in additional reading, it was recommended that we use in those boxes the silica packets, just to make sure that there's no moisture buildup on those counters. So we'd be purchasing those. And then finally, the tough plastic lockable boxes in order to get all of that stuff installed. So I did run it by my liaison on the select board, who gave me the go ahead to make that purchase. Just so you guys know, our plans with those for now are going to be to install them at Horus Hill, at the town forest, on the paved section of the Valley Trail, and then we will have one that is going to more or less float depending on the time of the year. So we'd like to collect some information about usage on Hathaway Trail during the summer, and maybe on, you know, some snowmobile statistics and whatnot during the winter. So that 4th counter is actually going to be, you know, floating throughout the year. But we think that those 3 permanent counters at the town forest, Horus Hill, and on the Valley Trail will definitely help to give us some information about usage up there, especially as we do things, you know, at those properties. It would be good for us to know, okay, year 1, year 2, year 3, what the impact of those expansions or improvements are. Okay, does anybody have any questions on that? And don't let me slip up again. They are by no means cameras. They are counters. There's a lot of confusion sometimes. There's even a little sticker, and I believe they come with the counter that goes on the box that says this is not a camera, because people start to feel uncomfortable if they feel as though they're being filmed when using public recreation. So it is literally just an infrared counter to track the usage there. Okay, so we will be pulling the trigger on those, and I think Andy and I will maybe take a field trip out and get those installed at those locations once we get all the materials in. Okay, any questions on that? Very good. Okay, moving right along. We're going to hop back into the discussion on the trails process documents. And Julia, I did get your changes. I've obviously not had a chance to stick them in there and send them out to the group. Tommy, in reading the changes that Sarah made to the wording, of that document, are you feeling more comfortable about the way that's presented, or?
I think it was. I'm going to need a little bit of time with it, but I believe Sarah had pretty much word for word took the changes from last week, if I'm correct, Sarah.
Maybe not word for word, but basically what I created a new paragraph at the top of the document that just says that unless Dover's involved, this doesn't have to be done. So either involved means it's either on town property, it's on property that abuts town property that intends to connect to it, or it's looking for funding from the town. So if it meets any of those criteria, then you would have to apply. But if it doesn't meet those criteria, like if somebody's building some kind of a track on their private land and they contact you for information, but it's self-contained on their land, then it would not be part of this system. This system is only where if you have an interface with the town of Dover, financially or geographically.
Okay. There was one, and I'm just going to read it to you quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Find it. And I kind of think it's a moot point, but it would be around private land ownership funded by the town. I can't really see that ever being an instance.
Right.
Why a
So
private landowner?
It's just in there as a possibility.
Okay.
If somebody wanted to come, we don't know what's going to come down the pike. There may be, the town may set up a grant program.
Sure. Okay. And I'm just going to read just, so I think I am good, just to help understand too, kind of where it's coming from the Vermont Mountain Bike Association,
Mm-hmm.
which is, which we're a chapter of. I just got some information from them, and they're just kind of stating how, so for any trail on private land that Vermont Mountain Bike Association stewards, they require a landowner access agreement. This indemnifies the landowner from liability and ensures that we can source public funding, being VEMBA, and provide long-term public access security. So in those past proposed approaches, the town would sort of play the landowner liaison role, which would be operationally unattendable for any project that VEMBA or CTA would develop or maintain. However, it also seems though, Sarah, in some of the language, you have an exemption kind of case by case that it could be through.
Right. I mean, I don't think we're going to write a document that's going to cover 100% of every possibility, right? So what I tried to, with that paragraph, what I tried to say was, if you're not on our land using our money or intend to connect to our land,
yeah,
then we have no standing. The town has no standing.
Yeah, so I think we're good then.
Okay. Thank you. I'm glad.
Oh, sorry, Sarah.
I just was saying I'm glad that we were able to get it right.
Yes, and thank you so much for your work on that. It is greatly appreciated. Andy.
Talk now.
Yeah, so in reading what you came up with, Sarah, I thought it was great. I did think of other maybe situations where the town's involved, where we may want projects to fall under these guidelines. So one of the things I'm thinking about is Crosstown Trails. So Crosstown Trails, the town doesn't own any land over there, but the main trail, Crosstown Trail, is a town right-of-way, which is some sort of ownership. You know, ownership of land is funny. The right-of-way doesn't necessarily mean that we own the land, though. Basically, it's ours. We can maintain it. We don't have to ask anybody, but we don't maybe technically own it. The parking area for Crosstown on Handle Road is on Mount Snowland. The town built it with economic development money and maintains it. We plow it in the winter, put up signs, kiosks. We have an agreement with Mount Snow to maintain that parking lot, to have built it and to maintain it. We have interpretive signs along Crosstown Trail. So even though we don't own the land, the town of Dover and the taxpayers have a big stake in it. And it may be something that we want to include in this framework. I know we also have an agreement with Mount Snow about the trails on their land and how the town is responsible for maintaining them and so forth. That was with Peak, but the way ownership of the resort goes, the agreement was actually with Mount Snow Limited, who still owns Mount Snow. So I don't know what the standing of that agreement is. Might need to be relooked at, but it's not in the sort of matrix that you have there at the beginning saying, you know, what town involvement is.
Well, Andy, I kind of disagree because it used some town money.
If I remember though, and I wish I had printed out
So it's set, okay, I think I know.
So it should be noted, projects that will occur on town-owned property, projects that abut town-owned property or properties, projects that are requesting funding from the town of Dover. Only projects that meet one of those criteria. So, you know, maybe if we just made it explicit that, I got to get back to Zoom here, that we're talking about not necessarily town-owned property, but property that we maintain, property maintained by the town. Even if we're not asking for money, we're involved. We're a major stakeholder in that trail system. And the taxpayers are, and the voters are. I don't know if, but anyways, besides that, drawing on the whole right-of-way business, Hathaway Trail and Cheney Brook Trail are also town not owned properties, but town rights of way. Maybe if we include rights of way, I can definitely see the town in the future looking for trailheads and parking areas adjacent to trail systems that aren't owned by the town.
So if we
That's
said
my comments.
projects that will occur on town-owned property or town rights of way,
Yeah, but
and then projects that are requesting or accessing funding.
funding or in kind, we maintain them. We plow them in the winter. I don't know what that means as far as funding goes, if that's
Okay.
clear. I
I
don't know
don't
if it's
think-
clear that
I think I can totally
Crosstown
fix.
falls under this framework, given the way it's worded, and I just
Okay.
am
think I
thinking that
can-
it should.
I think I can reword it pretty simply to cover those situations, and I can have that ready for next time.
Sweet. Thank you.
As long as Eric says it's okay for me to do that.
By all means.
Okay. And then if it's what people would like, I'm happy to take the recommendations Julia made and incorporate those as well.
Julie, for anyone who didn't get a chance to read through those yet? I know they came in.
I didn't circulate them to the whole
Oh,
audience.
okay, I see that.
I just
Um,
sent you and Sarah and Shannon.
Okay,
Happy to do so if you give me the go ahead, Eric.
yeah, maybe just touch on, I think we can
Oh.
skip like the grammar stuff and that, but like where they're.
Yeah, basically,
Hold on,
go
Julia.
ahead.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, the suggestions that Julia made don't change the intention. They're just cleaning up the language.
Okay,
So
Okay.
I don't think she's bringing anything to the table that we aren't already talking about, or we haven't already debated, right? And she seems to agree with me with that shaking head thing.
Yep, nodding my head.
Okay.
perfect.
I
So-
just tried to make it more clear and concise.
Mhm.
And the biggest suggestion I had was, I'll just say section 3. I thought it would be good to define, use consistent wording for new proposed project versus ongoing, and put those definitions right at the top. Then say how to, what the next step is. If it's a new proposed, go here. And I would suggest if we can embed a link, that would be great, to the questionnaire. And if it's an ongoing project, go here. And then again, suggest an embedded link. And then offer, I think I said offer the help once, either at the beginning or the end. That was the biggest, I think the most substantial change I suggested.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that. So we'll have Sarah make those changes as well. Any other comments, concerns, questions? Mike Purcell. Sorry, I see your hand. I apologize.
Yeah, I just, having been to a number of sort of trail access and maintenance sort of things, what came up, and I've seen it and lived it, is when you don't involve people that own property, they often think you're doing something to them instead of with them. So I might think that it's the best thing in the world for the town to have a Ferris wheel on the guy's property next door. But if I can't talk to him, it doesn't really matter what you and I and the group thinks. So I think it's just kind of odd that you might consider some kind of project, but you can't talk to the person where the project goes until.
Hold on, Mike.
Yep.
So that's literally addressed in the first phase of the project proposal, right? So you fill out this questionnaire. On the questionnaire, it says, does it involve private landowner? Like, is there a private landowner component? And if there is, it's stated in here that that's when the economic development department reaches out to those private landowners to initiate conversation. What I'm trying to cut down on is everybody goes out and says, I'm here from the town to build a trail on your property,
No,
because
I'm
that's not the case.
I'm not saying I'm from the town, but if this is my buddy next door and he thinks it's a great idea, I'm not telling him that I'm Mr. Town. I'm just saying that if I think it's a good idea, it doesn't really matter if I think it's a good idea and you guys think it's a good idea, and then you talk to them, they say, you know, screw you. I'm not interested in the community good. You didn't even talk to me about it. So I think I'm just saying that people's nature doesn't always go well when they're the last to find out that somebody's thinking about, they have a good idea for their property.
Right, but the point I'm trying to make.
I know what you're trying to do, and I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just saying, if I dream up something and I'm, you know, I need to talk to the guy that thinks, like he said, if you have a private network and I'm not asking for anything, then it's not a big deal. But if I want to connect the town to the private network, now all of a sudden I shouldn't be talking to that guy.
That's why the initial contact needs to be through this questionnaire to explain what your awesome idea is, so that I or Shannon or a representative of the town of Dover can make the initial contact.
I get that, but we're deciding what's good, what we think is good for someone else on somebody else's property. I'm just telling you, it's a wacky thing.
Okay, time out. That's not at all what this says. Hold on, Sarah, 1 second. It is not. We wouldn't be discussing this at a public meeting prior to one of us from the town reaching out to the landowner. It's literally no different than the person proposing the project reaching out, other than the fact that it's an actual representative of the town. We would be speaking with the private landowner before any of these conversations came to a public meeting. So we're not going to have people mad after the fact, because they will have already been contacted on the project. Am I not covering that base? Sarah, you had a comment.
I was just going to say, if these ideas, if plans or potential projects don't funnel through a single point, we're asking for trouble. Now, Mike, if your next door neighbor wants to build a Ferris wheel on his land, or you go to him and you say, I think a Ferris wheel will be cool. If we're talking about it connecting to Dover, either the land or the money, then no, it has to go through economic development.
Of course,
somebody can have the idea, but what has happened, and what I've gotten feedback on, and what Eric has gotten feedback on, is even if people aren't specifically representing themselves as Dover representatives, they are being interpreted as a Dover representative, and that is problematic. So it has to come through the Economic Development Department.
Of course it does.
I don't understand what you think is happening, that you need to be able to go and talk to the guy before it comes to economic development.
Because they could say, I'm not really interested, whether it's great for the town or not, you know?
Right,
I mean,
and so you bring it to
but I wouldn't
Eric.
know that if I didn't talk to him. Instead,
Well,
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna have this project. It sounds like a
Okay,
great
so
idea. Yeah,
let's
I'm
bring
gonna-
it in. Let's bring it
I'm gonna
in.
give it to you guys and you're gonna approach it. You know, okay.
Yes. Tommy, you have a comment.
I do. It's an interesting conversation, and I think you have a point, Eric. Mike, I think you have a point. Eric, your point, and Sarah, no one should be running around representing the town. Absolutely. And I don't think Mike in his organization or myself or any members of my organization ever would or ever have, when we talk to private landowners, represent ourselves as a town. We represent ourselves as a private organization. And I think that Mike has a point that it could become counterproductive, even counterintuitive, to where we might just have kind of a good working relationship or a good chance to make an introduction with a large landowner as a representative of SOVTA or of Hoot, Toot, and Whistle opposed to the town. And when we have to then bring in or, you know, sign something and that's the first point of contact has to be the town. Don't take any offense to this members of the town committee, but some people, government makes them nervous. So the town makes them nervous. The state makes them nervous. You know, when it's a private organization, it's a conversation between a private. Now, I think the next step in before any project could be started, absolutely. I think then it would, of course, have to go to the economic development. But for us to kind of not be able to be out there in the community and kind of be hamstrung to not have the conversations, I didn't really think of it, to be honest, until Mike brought it up. I think it's a very good point. I don't think it should be contentious, but I think it's a good point that should be considered.
Sarah, go ahead, and then I have a comment.
It doesn't say you can't talk to them. It says go to the economic development director and ask for permission. That way he's in the loop, or she, if Eric leaves at some point. It's not saying no one can ever go, but it's funneling the conversation. If you have a landowner and you say, look, this guy is really like anti-government, but he's got this amazing property that could be a great trail connection for us. And I would like to approach that person directly, because I think that because I have a relationship, we could have a better conversation. There's nothing in this document that says that can't happen. It's just asking you to loop Eric in before you do that. That's all. And I don't think that's unreasonable.
Thank you,
I don't think it's
Sarah.
unreasonable. I think a lot of these conversations happen organically on the spot. And it's, you know, it's a check and balance from kind of that organic community communication that happens, especially in an outdoor, community like ours. So again, I see both sides, but I just think that's a really interesting point Mike brought up that I hadn't considered.
Right, so my thinking by putting this in here is that I'm trying to eliminate a gray area, okay? And it's not, I can say it and say it and say it. I am in no way, shape, or form trying to hinder growth or expansion or new projects or any of those things. We just need to have a process. So multiple groups, multiple people, individuals, residents, business owners have requested that we get a process together so that there are no more gray areas. In my head, this is a gray area. On more than one occasion, from all types of different situations, I've been contacted and said, hey, so-and-so promised me this when it wasn't really the word of the town. You know what I mean? So that's the gray area that I'm trying to eliminate. I don't disagree with Mike. And I think I understand the need / want for those organic communications. I understand the importance there. Okay. But what I'm trying to eliminate is that gray area that says like, oh, well, I was promised this when the town wasn't the one making that promise. Mike, you're shaking your head. Do you have a comment you'd like to make? Are you muted?
Muted yourself.
You muted yourself, Mike.
Mike, you muted
Yeah,
yourself.
I got it. I had to find it. No, I'm not disagreeing. Anybody who represents themselves as a representative or anyone with authority is I mean, that's obscene and creates more problems. And I'm not trying to short circuit anything and go through all the process once you know that you have sort of willing partners that would like to enter into the process. That being said, I have a different kind of comment, and it goes back to who is undertaking or who's planning on sort of following through with some of those recommendations from the engineers with regards to like connecting neighborhoods and things like that are more municipal in nature rather than sort of recreational, yet expand the ability of folks, say, to get from their neighborhood to Horus Hill. Who's going to fill out that project sheet, or is there anybody that's even considering doing that?
No, so those are things that would be covered by economic development because they're things that have already come through that pipeline, right? They're recommendations in the Weston and Sampson plan that were already, kind of put that would fall more, like you said, into a municipal category, where the economic development would be, dealing with those things specifically. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not necessarily a hoot toot project. It's not necessarily a SOBTA project, but it is a
Right.
project. You know what I mean? So
So who's doing that? That's what I'm asking. Who's,
economic development department, those words just came out of my mouth. So that's what I'm saying. We'll take care of those pieces of those, like those types of project. What I'm referring to here is, again, like the things that aren't covered like that. You know what I'm saying? Like the new projects in the town forest, the new projects on Horus Hill, and other town-owned properties or things that meet these guidelines. Okay. But I do understand your concern, and it is noted that, you know, like economic development would be focused on those, you know, municipally based portions, like connecting neighborhoods and things like that. Sarah, you had a question, comment, concern?
Yes, I think that maybe there's a misrepresentation here. I don't think people are going out and saying that they represent the town. I think that is the perception is created because people are on the Trails Committee or they've been really active in trails development in town. And so even if the person in question is not explicitly saying, I'm here from the town of Dover, that perception is easy. That misperception is easy for someone to have. And so that's why, yes, there's going to be organic conversations, but before anybody moves to let's see about creating a project, you loop in economic development, because people, you know, I'm sure that there are people that anybody here has had a conversation with, and that person has walked away with a very different impression than what you actually said. You know, you can say, oh yeah, I'm on the Trails Committee, so I know about, you know, and this is exactly the kind of thing we're talking about. And the person could hear, oh, you're from Dover and you're telling me I'm going to get this trail system. I'm not saying you said it. I'm saying they're hearing it.
And it's also, thank you, Sarah. Also, as a reminder, it's for projects that fall under these classifications, right? So like, if you were bankrolling the Ferris wheel on your neighbor's property, if you do that, let me know, that'd be great. Love a Ferris wheel, but you don't have to come to economic development. However, if you're like, hey, I want to use economic development money to put this Ferris wheel on my neighbor's lawn, that's when we get involved with that conversation. Okay. Again, I'm not trying to hinder conversations, and I'm not trying to squeeze the pipeline here. I'm trying to eliminate the gray areas so that we can remove some of the issues that we previously had. Even just in my time here, which was a year and a half. Okay. Like, Trails was a little Wild Westy here for quite a while, and we're trying to pull it in a little bit. Okay. Other questions, comments, concerns? Andy McLean.
Yeah. Not to beat a dead horse, but I can't keep my mouth shut. You know, I honestly, you know, when it was the Wild West, you know, the Wild West got us Horus Hill, the Wild West got us, you know, backcountry stuff out in the town forest and the Ridge Backcountry Project, and, you know, Mike and myself, you know, have been, you know, cowboys creating conversations and just taking authority and making things happen for a long time. And this is a brand new thing. This, having a framework like this is a brand new thing. And it's difficult to wrap our heads around sometimes. I think it's a good thing. I think it's time for something like this. Just the presence of all these folks at this meeting tonight, you know, tells me that, hey, you know, things need to go in a different direction. But I get where Mike's coming from, and nothing says that this is written in stone. If it doesn't work, we change it, or you guys change it rather. And we just have to see how this works. But I think it's a good framework. I think we can work within it. And if we go outside of it, if we experience problems, that's natural, that's normal, and we can adjust. And I'm in favor of your what Sarah wrote and Eric wrote. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. So I do want to apologize. I am in no way inferring that, you know, the prior work here. I mean, we have some amazing things here in Dover, and it's because of, you know, groups like the Hoot Toot and so ETA and your work and everybody who's been involved with these trails is why we have these amazing things. And we are forever grateful for all of them. I think part of what has birthed this need for process was, you know, going through the report and process with Weston and Sampson to have them provide us with, okay, here are the awesome things you have. Now, here are the other things that you should add to it to make it accessible to more demographics and user-friendly and things like that. So part of, again, the birth of this document is to focus on that process to make sure that we are following the recommendations they gave us, so that we continue to expand in a way that's going to be the most beneficial for our town. That's literally what we paid Weston and Sampson to tell us. So I think we use that as our roadmap. We use this as, you know, kind of the compass on the roadmap, and we're, I think we're going to end up being in good shape. But don't get me wrong. We are forever grateful for everything that's happened up to this point. I think it's just, and it is a new thing, but we do have to focus those energies into that one pipeline so that we're all kind of moving in the same direction instead of like the bouncy balls in a locker room shower. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just got to all kind of focus in one direction. Any other comments or questions? So what I'd like to do then is, Sarah, you made notes of the changes in wording there that you were looking for. What I'd like to do with this then is have Sarah make those changes, and then, you know, the edits that Julia sent her. And then, Andy, you had mentioned to me earlier too that you would like wording added at that permit section, like with the economic development review, you'd like wordage added explaining like that's when we would also be contacting, say, zoning if required, or conservation commission if required.
Yeah, I thought it might be nice to just enumerate wherever in the documents, there's a few places, and I left my documents that I marked up at the office, but I'll share them with you tomorrow, Eric. But wherever you mention you may require state or local permits or reviews, if you just specified, you know, the local permits and reviews are pretty easy to enumerate. There's 3 of them: zoning, a highway access permit, and review by the Conservation Commission. Those are the only possible things you're going to wind up. I shouldn't say that. Those are the big ones, and not everything will fall under that. But if you enumerate them, then, you know, 10 years from now, people will be able to read your document and say, oh, did I talk to zoning? You know, am I entering on a town right of way? Do I need to talk to Travis? You know, is this something that I need to talk to the Conservation Commission about? I just thought it might be nice to be specific there.
Yep. Thank you. We appreciate that idea and that feedback there. And that's like we said before, that's literally just another one of those things that removes a gray area, right? Like if it's in writing in your face and you ignore it, that's, you know, but if it's not there, that leaves that gray area. And like you said, I 100% see these documents evolving and growing as we, you know, kind of work through them and go through the processes. So we literally just needed a place to start from. So I think that, you know, with the work that, you know, we've all done to put them together and edit them and talk about them and make those suggestions, you know, I think we're going to be starting off on a pretty good place. And then we make those tweaks from there to say, okay, here's something we might have forgotten about or need to add. Okay. Any additional comments on the process for new and proposed projects? So okay, Mike.
It's okay. It was something that Tom said before, and it had to do with spending money, that we had a brief conversation about spending money on somebody else's property. And like you mentioned, that VIMBA will never provide grants without a longer term relationship or agreement. And it goes to Andy's point, legally, I don't know what kind of agreement we have with whoever owns the Mount Snow Crosstown stuff, but if we're, thinking about funding a project to change something in Crosstown, we should have some kind of agreement if you're going to talk about getting money.
And as far as like VIMBA grants go, or grants that you're getting from the state or through the feds, like through VIMBA or through Tommy, what's the other organization I'm trying to think? There's
Catamount Trail Association, CTA.
Yes. So if you're going after grants through them or from the state or from the feds, that's on a piece of private property. That's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about the use of those town dollars on those private properties is where we come into that conversation. So yes, I agree. I actually have a note here after Andy brought it up to look see if we can find those agreements that were that we had with Mount Snow and see what we need to do about making sure that those are all good. Tommy, do you guys have a current agreement with VIII/Mount Snow on Crosstown stuff?
I don't know. Tim Shannon would know, and I'll ask him.
Awesome. Yeah, if you don't mind just reporting back, if you do, even to take a look at it and see like what it is that they did with you guys so that we know what we're looking at. Like, I just want to make sure that all of our bases are covered here so that we
okay.
Good shape.
Including, Horus Hill comes out onto the Mount Snow property.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Tommy.
Welcome.
Okay, so we'll make those changes. I would really like to try to push this to the next, let's get it into the next meeting with those changes and say like, all right, it's time to make a recommendation. Okay. So that being said, I believe last time we went over the questionnaire. Were there any additional requests, changes, questions on the questionnaire? Other than the fact that I would be adding that who will manage the project question. Okay, so we'll get that. I'll get that finalized. The work plan guideline, any questions there? Perfect. And then the budget is pretty straightforward. The more information provided on those, the better off you're going to be. Any questions there? Perfect. So we can get all of those documents finalized and we'll have another discussion about them once they're finalized at the next meeting to try to get that recommendation off to the select board. Now, I don't know that we have enough time, but at least let's open the conversation briefly about the documents for ongoing projects. Were there any questions on that? So I don't believe that we need that specific wording about that was added in the first one, because if this is an approved project as far as the process goes, that means that it fell under one of those categories to begin with. If you did not have to go through that process to begin with, this document is moot to you anyway, right? Does everybody agree with that?
That needs some wordsmithing, I think.
Okay.
Not changing intentions. I have Julia's notes and I didn't really take a bite at it yet.
Okay. So let's do this then.
I'll have everything ready for the next meeting.
Yeah. Let's do this. We are creeping up on 7:30. Sarah's, again, thank you so much for your help with this, but Sarah's got her marching orders to update the new process doc. If you have questions, comments, or concerns or changes that you'd like to see added to this approved project document, please send them to me so that I can get them into this document for the next meeting. I'd really like to get this wrapped up. Tommy, go ahead.
We do have a landowner agreement with Mount Snow for the Crosstown Trails.
Awesome. Awesome. Perfect. That's great news. So like I said, I'll see what we have here just to make sure that our bases are covered too, because we definitely, as you guys put money in, as we put money in, we just want to make sure that we have access for a long time to those things that we've been paying for. So thank you for that. But again, if you can take a deeper read into this ongoing processes doc and email me your changes, in the next week or two, so that we can have them back out to you guys for the next meeting, it would be really helpful. Okay, so the sooner you can get them to me, the better, just because that means I can get them out to the group faster. But definitely take a deeper dive into the ongoing projects document. We'll get the rest of these things finalized and hopefully be ready to make a call on it at the next meeting. Okay. Our next meeting is
March 8th.
March 8th. If there are things you would like to see on that agenda, we would need to know about them by March 3rd. We try to send a reminder email out to you guys to get those to us. But if you have something in the back of your head you're looking to talk about, you can send it to me tonight and be ahead of the game. Okay. Other than that, thank you, everybody. I think that's I know it's a new thing, and I know we got to work through it, but I appreciate everybody taking the time to voice their opinions and concerns so that we do our best to get it right the first go around. Okay. Perfect. So with that, can I have a motion to adjourn? Sarah makes a motion, Mike seconds. All right. Thanks, guys. We will see you next month.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks,
Good night,
folks.
everyone.
Guys.